The day when Sasha called me, I didn't mention it to Rashid at that particular time just because I was confused myself as to why she would even be calling me. And I mean, it was back to back. It maybe had been like three times. So I was just confused. I didn't respond back to her. I didn't call her back because you could leave a voice message. You can text me if it was important. It was just very weird. Now, finishing off the month of February, I think was probably the last month where things between me and Rashid were just very up and down. On one hand, I'm deep in depression, but the little bit of energy and love I still had, I was giving it all to him. I was sticking to my routine. Anything he needed from me, I was doing it. And just going deeper and deeper into a rabbit hole. Now, February is always a very emotional month for me. My grandma passed away in 2015, and till this day, I don't think I've really been able to process it. Because shortly after, she passed away, it was time for me to move to New York. And moving here was a challenge and a task in itself, but it kept my mind busy and it kept my mind off of things like that. So, February is her birthday month. And, the day of her birthday, because I had been in and out of social media, I was really just trying not to let people know what was going on in my life, but I had all this free time at home. So, that particular day I was posting things of my grandma, just saying how much I miss her, happy birthday, and, X, Y, and Z. So, going down into my story views, I seen that Rashid had watched almost every story of me posting my grandma. And I had went out and ran some errands that day and he was at work. And just the whole day I thought about, you know, him as a person. Because when it came down to your mom, your grandma, and everything that you ever told me about things that have happened to you that could be very emotional and traumatizing, I was there to support you. And I was there to love you. I was there to be a listening ear, give you advice, and really kind of lift you up out of these spaces where it can feel very dark sometimes. And the whole day, I just waited. I just waited to see if he would even text me, to call me, to simply just say, like, hey, are you okay? Like, how are you doing? I just seen you post this about your grandma. Like, how are you feeling? And he made it home before me that day. And when I got home, he was on the couch on his phone, still nothing. And, you know, I think that was probably the very first sign. I mean, there were multiple signs, but I think really just seeing the sign of this man not having any feelings for me or could care less about what I was going through. And, that hurts. That really hurts. And so I just got in the shower and I went to the room and I think I went to sleep early because at this point, you know, I just felt very empty. I just felt very empty. And I always used to tell people sometimes you can look at a person, whether they're getting on the train or at your job or just meeting them in public, and sometimes you can tell when somebody is just floating through life. And I was definitely floating through life at this point. And so I would always try to go to sleep early just so the day could be over with. Because sometimes, dealing with this kind of stuff is very challenging. It's hard to get up. It's hard to do things and to be dealing with all of these new things in my life and still dealing with Rashid and everything that he was doing to me. I was just very, everything just felt very heavy. Like everything just felt very heavy, and you know, it was hard for me to navigate it because at this point I really didn't have anybody to talk to about it anymore because I think I had ran everybody away with the similar stories and the nagging, the complaining, or looking for advice, you know? And this is where, you know, even though Rashid was hurting me the most, he was also still giving me something that I was looking for. I had him in the house. We were still having conversations sometimes. We were still doing small things in the house. And, you know, in a way, he he kind of became my best friend, you know? And I loved, you know, talking to him about certain stuff or just giving him advice. But in the back of my mind, I'm still like, girl, at some point, you gotta go. But for me, it's just very hard to really just let go of somebody that you really care about or that you really love. And so I was trying to stick it out as much as I could and stay afloat. But I think, like I said, February was that month where I just knew it was a decline. And, you know, no matter what I did, what I said, what I bought, it just didn't matter anymore. It just didn't matter anymore because I felt very underappreciated. I felt very undervalued and definitely felt disrespected. But again, I've never dealt with a narcissist before. So all of these signs at that point, I'm not noticing what's going on. I'm just riding the wave and I'm riding the emotions. You know, I'm not understanding what all this is to me. I just know I'm changing. And so moving forward, I had started a new medication for my transition, and this particular medication was making me eat more than normal. And so I was on the phone one day and I was talking to one of my girlfriends and I was letting her know, like, yeah, girl, you know, I think I'm gaining a little bit of weight. I'm on this new medication. It has me eating like crazy. And Rashid was in the living room listening to the conversation. And when I got off the phone with her, he looked at me and he mentioned, yeah, I'm, you know, you said something because I was eventually going to tell you something about it. And I kind of just laughed it off and I just told him to hush. But that very same day, I started to think about some stuff. I'm like, well, are you getting bigger? Like, because I'm a pretty active person. I try to go to the gym at least 2 to 3 times a week, if not five. So I had a good balance to where I could, and you know, I don't even eat that much. You know, I do like to cook, but in my house, I do like to keep more healthier options. And I try not to eat out as much unless we were doing like date nights or something like that. But for the most part, I never really was just like a binge eater or I'm just eating and gaining weight, you know? And so I just started to look at myself in the mirror. And I didn't necessarily feel disgusted, but I just started to just really nitpick at myself. I just really started to pinpoint every little thing more in depth, what I could fix, what I could do. And I thought maybe, well, maybe this is why he's doing this to me because I'm getting bigger. Or, you know, I'm just not looking up to part, or I'm not sure. But these were all the things that I started to think about. And then, not to mention that, it also made me go back to my past and my previous relationships. Like, did they not work because I looked a certain way? Or I don't know. But it really just had me thinking stuff that I shouldn't be thinking about. And to top that off, um, I wanted him to go somewhere with me one day. And, we were texting about it and texting about other things. And, he came out and he told me, he said, I really haven't been wanting to tell you this, but when we go out to places, I see how people look at you and it just makes me feel a little uncomfortable. And so I couldn't help myself but to really dig deep with that statement because I'm already feeling insecure because of all these women that I'm coming across and just everything that he had done to me so far. And now you're telling me this. I mean, I'm 5'9", I'm 205 pounds solid. It's not common to see a trans person in New York, let alone, like I said, I've never had to deal with this kind of stuff before when it came to me dating somebody. When I would date other people before Rashid, it was no problem. Could get dressed easily, could go out anywhere in public. I was confident. The person I'm with was confident. So it was a good match. And for me, Rashid just cared a little bit too much about what people thought. And at the end of the day, I don't care who you say you are or if you're trying to say that you're not down low or whatever the case may be. If you have an attraction to something, you will always have an attraction to something. Just as much as he was on the dating apps, just as much as I caught him numerous times with women, every little thing that he was doing, I caught him doing it. And that is a characteristic, that is a behavior that you have attached to yourself. And it is hard to break these type of behaviors. So when it came down to what you like, it shouldn't matter because at the end of the day, I feel like I look good, and to hear him tell me that, it just made me even more insecure. It made my anxiety reach beyond the roof. So it was now to a point to where I was low-key scared to go outside because I felt like everybody that would look at me or that I would come across in their mind, they're thinking all of these things and trying to figure me out. And going back to me already having body dysmorphia, which is almost every trans person experience when they're deciding to make that transition from one sex to another, I'm just really looking at myself. And I felt very worthless and I felt like, what does it even matter what I look like or what I'm wearing? And that started to kind of go into our dates moving forward because I had just so much brain fog from everything that I was experiencing and everything that was happening to me. Like, I just could not think straight about almost anything. And I'm still experiencing brain fog till this day. So when we would go on certain dates, I would have all these new clothes, all these clothes. And anybody that knows me knows I love to dress. I mean, it's what I went to school for, fashion, merchandising, and marketing. So being able to have style and put something together, that was never a problem for me. But just everything that I had dealt with, I would look at stuff and would take hours trying to figure out a good outfit, something that would make me look good and something that would make him feel comfortable to go outside with me. And every time I didn't feel good. I didn't feel like the outfit was right. And I just stopped caring. I just stopped caring. And, that really played a part in our dates moving forward because you have somebody that you love and care about. Every date that we're going on, that should be the time that we're bonding, spending with each other. But you have one person, and I'm the one person who is always sad now, can barely hold a conversation with you because every time we're going out, you're always on your phone or you're always complaining about how I'm moping and I always look sad, but you're the one that's doing it to me. And all of these things combined, I just stopped caring about how I looked. I just stopped caring about how I looked. I wouldn't, I'm not really a makeup girl, anyways. I feel like I just love my natural skin and I really worked hard to get it to where it is. So I've never really been a makeup girl unless it's a special event or I'm just feeling like wearing it for that day. But I just stopped everything. I was kind of doing my hair here and there. I was still kind of getting my nails done, but like none of it mattered because the one person that I'm looking to give me compliments or to even tell me like, oh, you look good today. And he would do it sometimes, but like I said, moving forward, now that I'm in this place, I really don't know what was the honest truth and what was just something to love bomb me or to just keep stringing me along. So that's also just very confusing and still hard for me to understand till this day. Now, going towards the end of the month of February, me and Rashid had missed out on that basketball game because of all the things that had happened between him and Sasha and me finding out about that. But I knew he loved basketball. So I was looking online one day and I really was just trying to figure out something again just to tie us together. Just to tie us together and just keep trying. Like, I cannot express enough how much I tried in this situation to really change the narrative. Um, so I found some last minute basketball tickets. It was the New York Knicks, and I cannot remember the team that they played. If I find a screenshot of something in my phone, I'll put it in the video because I can't remember the name of the team right now. But again, was just so excited to plan it. Just so excited to plan it. And, I wanted to surprise him. So as soon as he got home, it was maybe like midday. He had went to go get a haircut and some other stuff. And when he got back home, I told him, I said, hey, I don't know what you're doing tonight, but I need you to pick a good outfit because we're going to go to a basketball game. And just to see the light and the smile that was on his face, I will never forget that. And to me, that was just a portion of me still trying to be a loving and caring person to somebody that is treating me essentially like shit every chance that they get. And so he was super excited about it and he just kept asking, what made you do it? And they weren't really necessarily good seats. We were not high up because I've seen higher, but since they were last minute tickets and we didn't really get to go see the Knicks versus the Lakers, I've never been to a professional basketball game and neither had Rashid. So I just felt like it was, important to do that for each other. And like I said, I was willing to do almost anything to make this man happy and to make this man see my value and to see that, it's beyond the looks for me at this point. Yes, you look good, you look handsome, we have great sex, but I didn't need that anymore. I was really trying to get to know you and to really try to help you and really just try to understand you because I don't know. I don't know. So the day that we went to the basketball game, or I should say the night that we went to the basketball game, everything was good. Everything was good. We had a good time. We had drinks. We got food. This is while we were at the basketball game. And then afterwards, we had dinner. And we went to another one of my favorite restaurants, which is Cafeteria. It's in Chelsea. And just that whole time at dinner. And it's so funny because every time that me and him had went to cafeteria before, they set us in the same booth. So it was always just very interesting and funny to me that they would always sit us in that same booth. And I just felt like, that was our RSVP. Like that was our booth, you know? And yeah, so everything was well. And, you know, the rest of February, we were like going on dates, and the dates were fine. The dates were fine. The dates were amazing. And it was very weird in a sense because at this point I didn't need to necessarily check the phone as much as I was anymore. But what I will say is there was something that was sparking new things for me to do during this time because I was at home and I just didn't trust him anymore. Like the trust that I did have for him was gone a long time ago. So sometimes what I would do is if he would leave his phone on, I would share his location with me. But then I would delete all the messages because, once you start to share a location with somebody, it's going to leave it in the text messages. And I didn't want him to go in the phone to see that I, had did that because I don't know. I was just so into it. I was already deep and I just wanted to make sure that, if you're telling me you're going somewhere, like be honest, instead of lying to me. We could have gotten so much further in our friendship, in our relationship, had he just kept it 100 with me and kept it honest with me. Because that's all I've done through this relationship. Even when I was caught about something, I was honest with you about it. So just doing little things like that, sharing his location with me. If there was anything that I seen in the phone, like pictures or anything that maybe I had missed before, I was sending it to myself, deleting the messages. And I'm pretty sure at some point he probably knew because how can you go from having these long paragraphs that I used to write him when things would be wrong and then all of a sudden the message is gone? I just think that he didn't care and he just didn't feel the need to say anything. So that was pretty much where I was for that point. Now, going into March, one day we were in the living room and we were talking, and he pretty much just looked at me and he said, "Hey, I've had some time to think about it, and I think, maybe me moving out would help us get better." But I just couldn't understand that because you just had me sign a 2-year lease and we had already talked about other things. Now, even if me and Rashid were not going to be together, we had talked about the housing situation like this. It was beneficial for us. We were able to help each other. We were able to save some money. And that at the end of it, we would know for sure not if we wanted to be together or not. And I was even willing to move into a different apartment with him because I definitely want to leave this apartment at some point because I want a bigger space. And I think that, I just wanted to, be with Rashid and wherever I went. And so we started talking about certain stuff about, if we did move in together after this situation, and we were just friends, like what would be the rules and stipulations of living with each other? We wouldn't bring anybody over. We would just respect each other's space. Rashid would actually have his own room. And we would just do it like that because, like I said, even before the relationship, like, I love Rashid now. And it's probably going to take me a very long time to stop loving him. But just loving him and caring about him, like, anytime he would come over to my house before we lived with each other and got with each other, it was, I don't know, he made me feel seen. He made me feel sensational. We always had good conversations, and it sucks because I just wish that that is the version of both of us that we could have kept. I really regret now letting him move in with me and really figuring out who he was and just being the person that I am now. Because I used to just think of him so highly, you know? I just thought he was this amazing person and you know, he just had a lot to offer. And I think that's what got me so drawn in to trust him and to be willing to just help him and do anything for him because at the end of the day, that is the person that I remember. You know, that was the person that I fell in love with before everything else. So now, after seeing Rashid looking for apartments and just speaking with different realtors and the text messages that I would find, and now that he was bringing it up to me, you know, it kind of triggered me a little bit because it to me just felt like, in so many words, you're telling me that you're leaving me, you know, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't understand how you would persuade me into putting you on the lease, let alone signing it for 2 years. And then now all of a sudden you are wanting to move out because you're saying you think it would be better for us and you want to work on yourself. But in my mind, I just knew he wanted to do everything that he was doing in the house without somebody being on his back or figuring out who he was because there was no way that you know you did all of this just to up and say that you want to leave now. And I think that comes with battling demons and fighting whatever energy and spirit that was that he was carrying. Because sometimes, just as much as I felt like I was being held hostage, I'm starting to think that maybe he also felt like he was being hostage. He couldn't do what he wanted to do freely. But again, everything could have been resolved and everything could have been figured out every time when I asked you, did you want to be with me and did you love me? You continuously told me yes. And I just never really imagined that all of that would happen so quickly as it did. And, you know, just with everything else, every time I would wake up and look in the mirror, any mirror, didn't matter where I was, I just started to not notice the person in front of me. And, you know, in life, we all have different versions of ourselves. You know, I think life is always about evolving and learning and just growing. And, you know, for me, the version of myself who I was before I really got with Rashid and let him move into my house, um, that is a version of myself that I will always cherish and I will always appreciate, you know. I think growing up as a child and having all that stuff happen to me, I was so young and I didn't have a voice, you know, not to mention I was bullied a lot growing up, you know, just being gay and not knowing how to navigate that. You know, kids were mean. So I really didn't get a voice until I was an adult, you know, and even then me moving to New York and deciding that I wanted to transition, that was still a phase in my life where I was trying to figure out who I was, you know, and I think a lot of people go through life and they wait so long to really get to that point. So the simple fact that I was at that point where I was okay with who I was, you know, that version of me was, she was happy. She was happy, she was confident, she had personality, she could do anything she could put her mind to. She was loved, she was heard, she was seen, and it just really makes me, I guess, upset with myself because I didn't love myself enough to protect her. You know, I did not love myself enough to protect that version of her. And by that point, she was gone. She was completely gone. And I would probably never get to see her again or get get close to it, you know? Yes, this situation is going to help me grow and it's going to help me learn, but I will never fully forget that version of me, you know, because it takes a lot to feel confident in who you are. It takes a lot to be open and to be so transparent and to want to paint the world in color and be your authentic self. So just now being in a space where I can't recognize myself anymore is it was almost like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do in life anymore, you know. And to love a person so raw and so real and still want to do everything for them and just also see them win while you're forgetting yourself in the process is, you know, that's real love. At least coming from my end, that was real love to me, you know. And I I just don't know how again somebody could treat somebody that's doing all this stuff for them the way he was treating me, you know. And every time he would say sorry, it's like it didn't mean anything because you continued to do it and you continued to see how far you could pull me and how far you could take me. And to now want to leave me, that just brings me all the way back to my dad. The day when I told my dad everything about my feelings and how he made me feel, you know, being in and out of my life. After a while, he just he left and never came back. You know, so for Rashid to do that to me, you know, it just made me just very emotional, and you know, I felt like that was a point where I knew for sure he was gonna move out. You know, I didn't know how long it was gonna take or what I could do to fix it because I had tried so many things and nothing was working. So, you know, I just continued to go day by day, still trying to be the best person I could be to him, you know. I tried to minimize everything, the going through the phone, the bringing stuff up, because it wasn't doing anything but hurting me, you know. And so one day, you know, I was like here and there going through the phone and nothing was changing. Everything you could imagine me seeing, I was still seeing it. It may not have been to the magnitude as when I first got a hold to the phone, but he was still doing it, and still was talking to his coworker Rachel, and that they were doing other things and still meeting up after work and Lord knows what. And it was always just new girls. Always just new girls. And, you know, I don't know. I just really was questioning my worth to people because no matter what good intentions I always have in situations, whether it's with friends, family, or relationships, I'm starting to think that I have something written across my forehead that says, let me just do bad shit to her. Let me just fuck her brain up. Let me just fuck her life up, you know? Because to still want to go out into the world and to get to know people and to try to still love people with everything that keeps happening to me is you know, I guess that's a part of being a strong person that I was, because no matter what people will continue to do to me, I still remained authentic in who I was and trying to love people and trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. But every time I turn around, somebody is just fucking me over, you know? So, um, I don't know. So, um, with all that going on, I remember one day, we're in a brand new month too. We had just got into March, and there was a couple things that I was trying to plan for us. Rashid had never been on a cruise, and at the time, he did not have his passport. So I just kept trying to encourage him to, get everything situated to get his passport because I wanted to take him somewhere. I didn't know where. I just knew I wanted to surprise him at some point and take him somewhere. I mean, it could have even been Jamaica because I know he hasn't been home in a while. And again, just really wanting to change the narrative. I always was trying to change the narrative. Even with me losing myself and being so stuck and just so all over the place, I had faith in myself that I could change the outcome of the situation because, I'm a strong minded person. And was trying to plan him a cruise. And we were really connecting more on another level. I was starting to find out that he was liking skincare. I would catch him sometimes using some of my products, and I think that sparked his interest, and I started helping him with his skincare journey. And not only that, I was introducing him to my laser hair removal place at the time. He didn't really go right away, but he would always complain to me about the little stubby hairs on his face. It was always irritating and itching him. And I just told him, I'm like, hey, whenever you're interested, I think you should go and do laser hair removal just to permanently get rid of the hair. And if you just want to keep this and this, it makes more sense, you know? So really dibbling and dabbling with new interests with him and figuring out that he likes certain things and really just trying to help him with certain stuff. But meanwhile, I'm trying to think of an exit plan, and I want to say this: my exit plan never really consisted of me never speaking to him again in my life. I just needed space. I felt so suffocated, but with the whole tug and pull, the love bombing, I was just in a weird position where, on one hand, I don't want him to leave, but on another hand, if he doesn't, my life is gonna get crazy, or crazier, I should say. Because in my mind, I started to always have these thoughts like, what if I do something to myself? You know, what if I actually was to succeed in killing myself? You know, would would anybody miss me? You know, would would anybody care?
you know, and these are the thoughts that I just started to think over and over. And, you know, depression and like mental health is, I would never play with that kind of stuff again because, you know, you always hear people talking about having depression or having anxiety or whatever. But I didn't know what that was. My life wasn't perfect, but I didn't experience it. So now I have all these thoughts in my brain, and feeling that I'm just I just feel like I'm just here to please people and get nothing in return. So why am I even here? You know? And I still have those thoughts today, and trying to work through them, but it's hard. So, you know, one day, he was in the house and he was getting ready for work, and I wasn't necessarily trying to pick the fight, but if you're already thinking about leaving and moving out, like, why are we even wasting time? Like, you're still not helping me in the house. At this point, we were starting to slow down with having sex. It was just very here and there, not even as much as we used to. And so I had a thought in my mind like, hey, let me go tell him, you know, something has to change. Like, if you're going to move, like, just let's go ahead and coordinate that and let you move. But I think I didn't think it all the way through in my delivery because this is also me battling with myself. I had the thought, I had the motivation to have the conversation with him and to get it going, but I was also very hesitant and very just pulled back because, again, I didn't want to have to tell him that he had to move out. You know, I didn't want to tell him that. So I was just trying to figure out a way to tell him. And so I go into the room, and I can't really fully remember how the conversation went, but I just know in so many words, I said, hey, this isn't working out. And, my name is on the lease. This was originally my apartment, so I'm not going to move out. So I just need you to let me know and figure out what it is that you're going to do on your end because your name is now on the lease. And so as he was getting ready, he just got really furious and very frustrated because I was presenting to him the conversation. And I think that's where I felt like it backfired on me a lot. And here I go again, withdrawing what I'm saying to say, hey, I didn't mean it this way, but I'm just saying, like, what are we doing? Like, you have me so confused. So, what are we doing? Like, I don't want to keep living in confusion and going back and forth. So I just wanted him to figure it out and not necessarily pressure him to like change, but the conversation definitely had a motive to change, and I think this is where another sense of like manipulation came in because in that conversation, he started telling me certain things and making me feel bad because he was now going to be late for work because I was bringing it up to him. And yes, I will agree with him. Maybe that wasn't the right time to tell him right before he was going to work. So with that portion, I will agree and I will take accountability for that. But um, I just wanted answers. I just wanted clarity. I just wanted answers because I've never been in such a emotional roller coaster before and as caught up in these spider webs like I was before. So all that shit was so much garbage and so much toxic or toxic, or however you say it. It was just a lot of that toxicity on my mind. And my my brain is just all over the place, and that didn't make it any better. So, we were arguing and he was very upset and I felt so bad and I just felt like everything was my fault again, that I was like, okay, let me stop because clearly you're upset. It's already a lot going on and you have to go to work. So I was nice enough and I got him an Uber, but I felt like I owed that to him, you know, because I did make you have a certain type of attitude going into work. I was making you late for work by having the conversation. So I felt like I owed that to him. Now, while he went to work, I just sat at the house and just was really in a state where I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. I was just sitting there and just mind just going, 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 going. And I think I was in such survival mode that I was just trying to hurry up and think about ways to make it better again, or like think about buying him something, or think about taking him somewhere just so I can make it better. And that was so draining for me. And so I was on the phone with one of my good friends, Coco, and I was kind of letting her know everything that was going on because I did speak to her briefly about some of the situations that me and Rashid were going through before. But like I said, I hadn't really been talking to a lot of my friends or my family at this point because I didn't want to keep bringing up what I was going through, and at that point, I didn't have anything else to talk about. My whole life just revolved around this relationship and all the trauma and all the drama that I was dealing with. But I needed somebody to talk to. And she is in New York, and I just felt like, if there's anybody that I could really depend on to just be a listening ear or even to come and see me, Coco was the girl. So I'm just going in and I'm telling her everything that's going on, and it's getting later and later. And I'm still on the phone with her. I'm like, girl, I guess I'm gonna just go to sleep now because I'm not sure where Rashid is. Because I was gonna wait for him to get back home to just talk to him again, right? And just apologize for doing that to him at work. Because when that whole situation happened, the only thing we had text about for the remainder of that day was me getting him the cab when he went downstairs, and I asked him, was he in the cab? Told him to have a good day, and that was it. We did not text any longer. So I was trying to wait up just so we could have a talk. Um, and I hung up with her. It was maybe going on 11:30 or like midnight. Maybe closer to midnight because I had already took a shower and was getting ready for bed, right? And I hear the keys in the door. And so Rashid comes in, but he is super drunk, like super drunk, almost to the point to where he was in and out of consciousness. And you know um he didn't really speak much. He was just slurring with his words and stumbling in the house. And so I tried to go in the room, and for a minute I was trying to wake him up, and he wasn't waking up. He was still breathing. And I called Coco really quick on FaceTime, and I was showing her what he looked like. But you know, just seeing him like that, it made me feel, you know, it made me feel bad because I felt like I was the reason that he went out and got that drunk, you know? And, you know, Rashid is he's skinny, but he's heavy. So I was like, heard him and calling Coco. I'm like, should I call 911? Should I call the ambulance? So she's telling me, she's walking me through all this stuff, and she's like, you need to give him milk. you need to do this, you need to do that. And the one thing that started to really break my heart through the whole situation is because when he was talking, the little bit that he was talking and coming in and out, he was he was asking for his mom, you know? And I don't know. I felt like at that moment I knew whatever we were doing, like it was hurting both of us. And it was just it was hurting both of us, and it was just getting very toxic, you know? So to hear him asking for his mom, and I'm not sure if he had like a childhood dog, but he kept asking about a dog named Charlie, and was just very drunk, and it made me scared. It made me scared, and I eventually was able to like drag him and pick him up and put him in the shower, and I just poured cold water on him until he just like kind of woke up, and after that, I hung up with Coco, and I really just tried to take care of him. I let him take a shower. Um, he was falling asleep in the shower, so I had to keep checking on him. I sat in the bathroom with him while he was showering. And, when he got out, I helped him lotion his body. I really just took care of him, and I got him in the bed, and we just went to sleep. But I just, I knew that it was not good because you have one person, which is me, who is fighting these new battles and these new, I'm not gonna call them demons, but these new things that I can't explain, these new feelings, and then you have somebody who is clearly fighting and battling with something else, and you have two people that's like together, and now you have like a soul tie, you have a trauma bond, and me being the one person that is caring about him the most, um, it just wasn't good. It just wasn't good at all. But for whatever reason, I was still stuck. I was still stuck because, I loved him. And the type of love that I have for him, it will always be unconditional. Yes, we're not talking anymore, and that's fine. But, you know, I don't know. So that was that situation. And, the next morning I kind of told him everything that happened, and how Coco was there to like help me walk him through it. And, you know, and I didn't even think to record it to show him or anything like that. So, he kind of thanked me for it. But then in a way, he was also like, no, there's no way that I did this. I don't believe you. And even that was just so hurtful because I literally just sat here. And even though I'm mad at you and there's so much that you're doing to me, I literally could have just sat here and let you do whatever. If you want to get drunk like that, I could have easily let you pass out, but I don't have that kind of heart, and I'm not that kind of person. So to kind of like downplay me and what I just helped you with was also hurtful, you know? And that day, he went to work, and that was it. I just sat at home, and I'm just in awe because it's getting to a point to where it's not good for either one of us to be with each other, but I have faith because I knew if I'm getting myself together, you could do the same thing and everything would be okay. So I really want to take this time for anybody who has made it to this point in the stories
to thank you so much for listening to me, and hopefully, this has touched somebody. It has helped somebody that is also out there dealing with similar situations, or who has dealt with somebody that was like this before in their life and they're still struggling to heal or know how to move on. I really want to say that we're all human and I am no different from you. And I am just so glad that I can be transparent and honest and just be super vulnerable and open to everyone that is watching. Now, these next couple of videos that I'm going to release, I'm not gonna lie, I've just been very slow to release them because if I'm gonna do this, I want to make it very honest and clear. Um, Once I'm done with these videos, I told myself that I completely have to move on, right? And, you know, that's gonna be very hard for me because, um, Rashid will always be somebody that I hold close to me. He is a staple character that happened in this chapter of my life. And, right now, the best way that I can put it is I feel like this situation in him is in a coma, and it's up to me to pull the plug. And I just have not pulled the plug yet. So I'm gonna hurry up and try to finish these videos, but obviously these next couple of videos are even more emotional and sentimental to me because it is getting closer and closer to the point to where me and him don't talk anymore. And I'm in this space that I'm in now, you know? And it's definitely easier said than done to just try to forget about a person and to just leave the situation alone and not think about it anymore. But when you really, and I mean really, love somebody, flaws and all, and really give them unconditional love, it's just hard. It's very hard to just walk away and, you know, forget about somebody like that, you know? So, again, I just want to tell everybody thank you, and I really appreciate all the love, all the support, everybody that has been reaching out to me, whether it is on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, all of my social media platforms. I see y'all, um, and I love y'all. And all I can say is stay tuned for part 9.